Hi, everybody. My name is Shannon, and we are going to be doing something really fun today. If you've never heard of Carnival Glass, today you are going to hear all about it. So Chris Williams is going to be teaching you how to use our FolkArt Dragonfly Glaze in a really fun technique and way. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. And without further ado, let's hand it to you, Chris.
Well, thank you, Emily. And thank you, Lindsay, also for this great opportunity to be able to share this really fun painting technique. I am Chris Williams, and I'm here to spend an hour with you to tell you a little bit about Dragonfly Glaze and how it can be used to create a faux carnival glass technique. And for those of you that might be saying carnival glass, I don't know what that is. I'll take just a moment or two before I begin teaching to share with you a little bit about carnival glass and what it is. If you think of the word carnival, I know many of us at one point in time in our lives have all attended some kind of fun carnival where there were amusement rides and games and so on. And many of us may have even plucked that little rubber ducky out of the water that goes around and looks at the number and knows what prize we've won, or perhaps threw rings, like embroidery hoop rings on top of milk bottles. And maybe if you scored a certain many rings, you won a prize. Well, carnival glass was a very bright, colorful glass made in the early 1900s. And when you went to a carnival in the 1900s, the children and the people playing those games often did not win the game prizes that we win today, which usually are big stuffed toys or, big, huge elephants or something like that. Back then, you won a piece of glassware, and it was called carnival glass because it was so bright and shimmery. And it dates back, like I said, to the 1900s. It was hugely popular for about 10 years, from maybe 1908 to maybe 1918. Carnival glass was made in so many different colors too. There was a marigold, and there was a really deep blue violet, and then there were all various shades of blues and greens. And it was so colorful and beautiful. It was often referred to, though, as the poor man's glass, because at that time also Tiffany's was making beautiful colored glass. And this was a combination of several different colors that gave you such an iridescent hue or vibrancy on the glass itself. Today, we're going to do one of those colorways using FolkArt Dragonfly Glaze, and it's going to be so much fun. If you're not familiar with FolkArt Dragonfly Glaze, it is packaged here in a 2-ounce bottle. There are a total of 6 different units or 6 different items that are available in the FolkArt Dragonfly Glaze. First of all, let me tell you, Dragonfly Glaze is not a paint. Let me say that again. It is not a paint. It is a water-based brush-on finish or varnish that has many, many little micro chips of beads of iridescent wonderfulness mixed in a milky white base. When we brush it out today, you're going to see it is milky white, but it will dry clear and a very prismatic effect. And when I said that there were 6 different colorways, can we go overhead for just a moment? I would love to share with you the bottle, and I'm going to go real up close. When you look at the bottle, can you see from my left over to the right how the label, and I'm looking at this top band right here. Look how that color shifts from a violet through to a blue, all the way over into a green. That's what this particular version of Dragonfly Glaze does. We also have some that shift from a red, I'll bring one up here for an example. It goes from a red through a violet. Can you see the violet at the top? All the way to a blue. Then we have another one that shifts from a blue to a green to a gold. We have one that shifts from a green to a gold to a red. And then we also have one that we call full spectrum. That's a little bit of all of the different colors combined. So we're going to work with the FolkArt Dragonfly Glaze today. And the color I'm going to work with today is the violet, blue, green mixture. And before we begin too much, I want to share with you, we can go back face on if we can see some of these samples I brought with me today. FolkArt Dragonfly Glaze is a top coat. Like I just said, it's a varnish, it's a sealer, it's a finish. It can be applied to so many different types of surfaces. This here I have beside me a little lamp base we have painted it on. You can paint it on picture frames. This was just simply a rock that gives us kind of like a chunk of coal effect. You can do all kinds of decorative things like this little sphere here. The Dragonfly Glaze is best when it is applied on a surface that has some kind of form or texture to it, because when the light hits the various shapes or sizes of the design, as an example, this, I'm going to take the lamp shade off so you can see this lamp right here is got all kinds of little divots in the design. There's a shape to it here. When light hits all these different areas, you're going to see all of that prismatic wonder. It's such a beautiful finish that you can use as a top coat on just about any kind of surface. It works well on glazed ceramics, on glassware, on canvases, on paper mache, on wood. It works well also on frames like we showed here, the rocks that people love to paint and decorate. It works on so many, many different types of surfaces, but just keep in mind, a surface that has some form to it is going to be a lot better than the surface that is flat, like an artist's canvas, because that light needs to affect and hit the different areas of that surface. And when I mentioned glassware, you might think, well, is it for decorative purposes only? And the answer is no. FolkArt Dragonfly Glaze can be used decoratively on glassware, but it can also be baked to the glassware. So if you wanted to have a prismatic sheen on a wine stem, let's say, and yet you still wanted to be able to use that wine stem for enjoying your beverages, excuse me, all you need to do is bake it in an oven to cure it. And I can go through those instructions later if you're interested in learning how to do that. But it is something that can be used on many, many different types of surfaces. To get started in our Carnival Glass today, can we go back overhead? I want to share with you a couple samples that I brought with me today. And these are the samples that were actually photographed in our ad for today's class. Carnival Glass itself typically was always a pressed glass piece. And you can see this little saucer that I'm holding up here now is pressed glass. When I show you the back side, which is painted black, you can see all of the design elements in that pressed glass. Real Carnival Glass years ago was a combination of chemicals that were applied to the pressed glass before the firing process. What we're going to do is we're going to work in reverse today so that you can kind of get that prismatic color. This one is the color combination that we're going to, no, this is the one that we're not going to work with today. This one has the red to the violet to the blue. And this kind of shows you when you hit it in certain areas, you can see a red violet. I know you're getting some glare from the glass itself. This part that you're looking at here, the top of the saucer, is still the original clear glass. So we're, as I said, going to work in reverse today. I'm going to share with you another little piece here. This square little plate has a little bit, let me see if I can do it to a side so you can see there's a little bit of a dome shape to it. It kind of joins up a little bit. This was done in the coloring that is the violet, the blue, and the green. So depending upon how I hold it and how I look at it, I can see so many different colors. This large plate here is also the same way. I can, I'm seeing a lot of purple here in front of me. I know I'm not catching it at the right angle for you to see it. The violet, the red violet's not showing up. But this is something that also can be done. And if these pieces were baked in the oven, it means that you can then use them on just about anything. I'm going to move some palette over here closer to me today, and we can use a couple different types of tools to apply the Dragonfly Glaze to our glassware. And we can use just a regular paintbrush. We can use a 1-inch foam applicator. We can even use these pouncing type craft tools to pounce the color on, especially if you have a surface that might have a very deep indentation of the pressed glass design. So let's go ahead and just start, and I'll tell you exactly what we need to do to create our faux Carnival Glass glaze. Again, I'm going to work today by using our Dragonfly Glaze in the color violet blue, and green. And I'm turning the bottle here. So I'm one more time. I'm turning the bottle so you can see there's the violet. In the center of the label is the blue, and towards this side is the green. And when I open this up, I'll tell you, on a new bottle here, you're going to remove your shrink wrap. There's this particular product comes with a heat seal underneath it. And there's going to be a little white cap, a little white paper cap that you're going to need to remove and peel off before you begin working with the product. I've already done that on mine right here today. And so now I can actually use the flip top lid and squeeze out onto my palette the product. And I'm going to bring this up so you can see close. As I said, it is milky white in color, but, and I don't know if I can get close enough so that you can see the little prismatic there. You can see a little bit within the light. Can you see it? It's just starting to shimmer a little bit. We'll see it a lot more once we get onto the glassware itself. Before we begin painting our glass, I'm going to demonstrate on a couple different surfaces today. The first thing I always tell you to do is to thoroughly wash your glass well. So you can run it through your dishwasher. You can wash it by hand at the kitchen sink. Make sure you rinse all of the soap suds off and then dry it well. The next thing you want to do is use a dampened paper towel and some rubbing alcohol. And you want to moisten that paper towel with the rubbing alcohol. And then I'm going to work on the reverse side of the glass. So you would take that dampened rubbing alcohol cloth and thoroughly wipe the back side of the glass. Even though you've washed it in your dishwasher or you've washed it by hand at the kitchen sink, there might be some impurities on the glass still. There might still be a little bit of the soap sud residue there. We want to make sure that the glass is thoroughly cleaned well before we begin painting on it. And like any glass painting that we do, as far as your hands are concerned, do not wear hand lotion or any kind of cleaners on your hand. You want your hands nice and clean, and you want your glassware nice and clean. I've already done that for us today. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you on this one, which is a smooth glass. There's no pressed indentations to this. I'm going to then just load my brush, and I'm working with a flat 3/4 inch brush right now, a good size brush. And I'm going to brush on. If you look at this, it's a round piece. So am I going to go straight from one side to the other and then all the way out this way? I'm going to go ahead and start in the middle first. And I'm just going to go ahead and brush on. And with just a couple brushes, I want you to see that it is milky white in color. And we're going to brush it out as smooth as we can. This does dry clear. So we're going to brush this on as smooth as we can and allow this to dry. You will see some brush marks, and I'll show you another finished piece here in a minute. Then it doesn't really matter. But can you start to see how shiny that is? I'll show you again when it starts drying. But we're going to put one coat on right now, and I'm going to also then brush out all the way around the outside edge of my plate. And I'm going to allow this to dry and then come back and give this a second coat of paint. And I say paint, but it's the Dragonfly Glaze, which again is a top coat. It's not really a paint. I'm so used to working with paints as an artist, I accidentally called it paint. Sorry about that. Dragonfly Glaze is so, oh, go ahead, Emily, you got a question?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Some people, again, just to reiterate that this can be used as a product on glass and then baked and cured. And then also when you poured the glaze onto your palette, did you have to take your bottle or mix it in the bottle before applying it to your surface?
Those are both great questions. And yes, Emily is right in reiterating that this can be used on glassware, and the glassware can be washed. And I'll go through the baking instructions here after I finish the second part of the question. Second part was, did I have to shake it or mix it? And the correct answer is no. I just poured it directly out onto my palette, because this again is a top coat, which is like a varnish or a sealer. You should never really shake your varnishes, because it introduces air bubbles into it. So then when you pour it out, you're constantly fighting an air bubble when you are brushing on a sealer or a varnish. So it's best not to do that. And let me show you, we talked about, let me go ahead and get into the baking part now, because Emily brought up the baking again. This is great. So let's say I just wanted to do this. And I know I'm going to get my fingers in the wet, but I'm bringing it up to show you, and it's still milky white. This side here is the clear glass. My product is on the bottom of this little saucer here, but can you begin to see just a little bit? You're going to see my brush strokes, but you're also going to see just a little bit of that prismatic wonder of the Dragonfly Glaze. I'm going to turn it over and set it down. But let's say that we wanted to do this effect only without making it look like Carnival Glass. And we wanted to do this on a piece of glassware like our little saucer today, or like I mentioned earlier, maybe you wanted to do a little wine stem. The best thing to do is to clean your glass like we began, apply your Dragonfly Glaze, and then, and you can do 1 or 2 coats. And then if you want to bake it in the oven to totally adhere and cure that finish to the glassware. When we bake our paints, we bake FolkArt enamels, we bake FolkArt multi-surface, we can bake the Dragonfly Glaze to cure onto glassware. We bake it or we paint it first. We allow it to dry a good 24 hours. 24 hours later, you set it in a cold oven. There's no preheating. It's all set in a cold oven. Turn your oven temperature to 350 degrees and then set a timer for 30 minutes. So it's 350 for 30 minutes. When the 30 minutes is up, you're going to turn that oven off. Do not open your door. Just turn off the oven and leave your painted glassware in the oven. In other words, the painted glassware needs to heat up evenly with the oven, and it needs to cool down with the oven temperatures. And the best thing to do is to not open that oven door until that oven is completely cool. So what a good thing to do is to, if you're doing a batch of things, is to do them at night after you're done fixing dinner for the family and you've cleaned the kitchen. Before you go to bed, go ahead and do the baking portion, turn the oven off. Again, it was 350 degrees for 30 minutes. Turn that oven off and then let your items cool in the oven overnight. When you come back the next morning, obviously overnight, they're going to be completely cool, both the oven and your glassware inside. Then you open up your oven door and you can take your pieces out. Once you take them out, they are then top shelf dishwasher safe. But I tell you, as an artist, I always say my rule of thumb always is handmade, hand wash. So if I made a piece like this that I wanted to use over and over and over again as a little serving dish, maybe you'd put some candies in the center here, I would always, after baking, hand wash my piece. Never let it soak in a pan of water or a sink of water. Just wash it, rinse it well, and then dry it well. Any questions on that, Emily? I think that pretty much covers the baking part of it.
Some people are asking if it's food safe, and I know that we are painting on the bottom side of the glass plate so that the paint is not actually touching the food. Is that correct, Chris?
Yes, is correct. We are working on the reverse side. So what I have right now is just 1 coat of Dragonfly Glaze on the back side or the underneath side of my little saucer here. We're going to continue on with a couple more steps before we were to finish with this. But
sure.
Like this piece here, if I put a slice of cake on here or a cookie on here for a mid-afternoon snack, I'm going to be perfectly fine because this top part here, this is the actual clear glass. All of my paint and my product is on the bottom side, and that's what we're doing here today. So it is food safe this way. If you did it in reverse and you had paint on the top side here, I would not put food directly on this. What I would do is if I had a serving dish or a plate and paint is on the top part, let's say you did a decorative painting trim on the border of a plate, I would put a paper doily down first before I put my cookies out for a luncheon or something like that.
Sure.
Okay.
And just one more question, Chris.
Sure.
When you are putting these dishes into the oven, would you recommend placing them directly onto the oven rack, or would you use a cookie sheet?
Okay, you can do either. And when you're putting them in, remember we're working on the reverse. So when you put this in the oven, you're going to turn it upside down so that the glass part, not the paint part, if you're putting it on a cookie sheet or if you're putting it on the oven wires, the racks themselves, it goes this way, not with the paint side down, but with the paint side up. Does that make sense? I hope so.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay.
And the
These are all
oven is
great
safe to
questions.
use afterwards, right?
I'm sorry?
The oven is safe to use afterwards.
Yes, yes. No, there's no odor in the room. You don't hear anything. There's no bells, whistles, pops, sizzles, crackles, nothing. And your oven is safe to use again, and there's no fumes, nothing to worry about. I generally, when I take my glassware out of the oven, let it kind of just rest, maybe even 72 hours, just let it rest before I were to use it and or wash it, just to make sure that that cured paint is really calm and cooled down and actually fully adhered to the surface. These are all great questions. Keep them going. Let's go ahead and move on. If we're okay, Emily, I'm going to move on to the next step. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So then the next thing is I took another piece of glassware here, and I don't know if it's going to show up well enough. Let me use my little pointer. Again, I'm working on the back side of the glass, but looking through the front here, can you see I kind of did a division line here of thirds. So in other words, this side here does not have any dragonfly glaze. And then this side has one coat, and then this side has a second coat. So that's what we're going to do. Our next step, and I'm going to wait for this to completely dry, my first little one, it's wet still. So on this one, I'm going to move over, and again, on the back side of my plate, I'm going to use my flat brush, load it with the dragonfly glaze, and on the side here that is clear, I don't know if you can see, you can look through the glass here and see this side right here does not have the dragonfly glaze on it. I'm going to, again, just to reinforce our first step, we have brushed on dragonfly glaze onto the plate and just work as smoothly and quickly as you can to get one smooth coat on. Once this one smooth coat is on and dry, you can then apply a second coat. Now, the dragonfly glaze takes a little bit to dry. If you're working in a very hot, humid area, if you're working near a fan circulating, if you're using a hair dryer to help speed up the drying time, all of those things will dry quicker than the glass just left onto its own, all by itself. But you're going to put on, so this one here, let's see, this side here is only one coat. So I'm now going to put my second coat on. Again, I'm loading that brush with the dragonfly glaze, and I'm going to brush my second coat on and allow that to dry. Once we allow that to dry, we'll move on to our third step. And the third step is very, very simply done. I'm going to wait till we get to that part. It's very, very easy to create this carnival glass appearance. And look, and this plate is just going to be a little patchwork because I worked it up in different sections, but I wanted to show you one coat. This is one coat right here. This is a second coat right here. And just for something different, I think it's more this plate. Yeah. When I bring this one up here, can you see it almost looks like there's a cross hatch of pattern? In other words, it looks as though one coat, and again, we're working on the bottom, we're working underneath, but when you look through the clear glass on top, you can see it looks like some strokes are horizontal and some might be vertical. And that is, the first coat was applied horizontally, the second coat was applied vertically. So you can see a little pattern on the back side. Again, it's always the back side of our glassware, and you can kind of achieve a little bit of pattern. So that's even something fun to think about when you are applying the first two coats of your dragonfly glaze. If you have a piece that has a lot of texture to it, there's a lot of deep, deep crevices. Here's a beautiful little glass compote. And this is a great thing about this technique. You can take thrift store glassware and you can turn it into a piece of beauty because you have this technique to create the carnival glass effect. This compote here, all of this pressed design here is very deep. These ridges are very, very deep. And you can take your brush and brush on your finish, but you can also use something like a foam applicator, like a 1-inch foam brush. You can even use these tools that are little foam spouncers, and you can kind of dab some of that dragonfly glaze on if you want a little more texture. This clear glass plate here that I brought along already has 2 coats of the dragonfly glaze on it. Again, we're working, I can't re-emphasize enough, we're working on the back side of the glass, not the front side of the glass. And just to show you, this has got the pouncing effect, and you can see they added a little bit more texture to the glass. This glass is not a bubbled textured piece. This was a very smooth piece of glass, like the one we started out with, like this one down here. But this one now has kind of a fun, bubbly, textured effect because it was all used with a pouncer. And once the sponge was loaded with the dragonfly glaze of color, it was then kind of tapped on, just lightly pouncing and tapped onto the surface. And this again has 2 coats of the dragonfly glaze. Everything that you're going to do is you're going to apply 1 coat of dragonfly glaze, completely let that dry, then move on and put a 2nd coat on. The 2nd coat is going to just add a little bit more prismatic effect. And you're going to see some, but you won't see it completely until you put a color behind here. And that is the 3rd step. So I'm going to set my brush aside with it has the dragonfly glaze in it. And I'm going to also set aside all of this. I'm going to get out FolkArt multi-surface black, and this is licorice. You can also use pure black, and you're going to get the most prismatic effect with a black color over the back of it. This plate again also has a black on the back side, and this black can be, like I said, licorice, or it can be pure black. Oh, this one has a heat seal. Let me take that off real quick. They just kind of peel right up. And I've got a little cover here. Let me get that off too. Okay, there we go. Put my lid back on. Yeah, I'm going to use my flip top lid. Again, this is FolkArt multi-surface paint. If you're not familiar with the multi-surface paints, the multi-surface means just what it kind of indicates. The word multi-surface is on the label there. You can see it nice and clear now. And this type of paint works beautifully on glassware, glazed ceramics, paper mache, artist canvas, wood, tin, any kind of metal. It works on note cards. This is a multi-surface paint, just like the name implies. It can be used so beautifully on so many different types of surfaces. And this paint should be baked if you're doing decorative painting with the multi-surface paint directly on glassware, even without the technique that we're learning today. You still want to bake this to make your glassware permanent. So remember our baking instructions, and working with multi-surface paint this way is perfect. You can also, if you don't have the black multi-surface paint, you can work with the black, which is licorice, in the FolkArt enamels line, because that too is paint that is made for glassware and can be baked on the glass. I want to see if that one's dry. We can come back and put a 2nd coat of our glaze on that after we go on and move on to this. So I have here another little piece that I prepared, and this is just a small little pressed glass candy dish. And in this one, I put the color on the outside. No, I put the color on the inside. Sorry, I put it on the inside. So what I have right now is 2 coats of the FolkArt Dragonfly Glaze on the inside of my little candy dish here. So I'm working on the inside rather than working in the reverse, because I wanted you to be able to see the, looking through the glass here to see the color on the back side. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add our black, and I'm going to take another 3/4 inch flat brush, and we're going to go ahead and begin by loading the brush with our black. And again, I'm working with the color Licorice. And I'm just going to brush the inside of my glassware. And this is directly on top of my 2 coats of the FolkArt Dragonfly Glaze. And again, I applied my glaze on the inside of my glass this time, so that when I turn it over, you can begin to see that beautiful color glass of the Carnival Glass look on the outside. So let's continue adding our black to the inside. And your black, you may want to choose to put 2 coats on, just to kind of make sure that that black is nice and opaque and solid in color. Because the more deeper the color is, and the more opaque that color is, the more it's going to begin to look more like a Carnival Glass finish. Again, we are creating a faux Carnival Glass technique. As I'm turning this around, can you start to see this with the lights here in the studio? It's beginning to shimmer in front of me. What I would do if I was doing this at home is put the 1 coat of the black on. Again, it's the FolkArt Multi-Surface Licorice. I would completely let that dry, and then I would come back and put a 2nd coat on, just to make sure that black is nice and opaque. Now, when you're looking down inside this piece, all you're going to see is the black. But once you put your candies in there, or whatever you're going to use for decorative purposes only, then it's going to overshadow what just the black of the background. When I hold it this way now, can you start to see how beautiful, and I'm trying to catch some of the lights here in the studio, how beautiful some of this finish is. And it gives you such a beautiful, beautiful prismatic. Let me hold it up a little bit closer. It just is absolutely gorgeous. And it gives you that really tremendous, beautiful Carnival Glass appearance. Carnival Glass typically was this pressed type of glass rather than a flat glassware. But look how beautiful that is. I hope you all can see that. And I hope it's catching. It looks like it is here in the studio.
It's so pretty. It really is.
Yeah, thank you. This little piece that I shared with you that we pounced, we used a foam pouncer and we pounced 2 coats of our Dragonfly Glaze on. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. And I'm going to show you using the pouncer, applying the black paint. Again, this is FolkArt Licorice. And I'm going to pounce that black on. And just pounce it on as smoothly as you can. I use light pressure and I tap over one area several times, because if you are using a foam pouncer, think about this. This is like a little sponge. Air can go through all of these little holes. You don't want a lot of air bubbles on your surface. So if you pounce in one area for a little bit of time, you will pop any bubbles that may appear. But in the meantime, you're applying that black color on. And that is only one application. So I think what I would do again is to let this completely dry, put a 2nd coat of the black on, but watch when I turn this over, look at that, y'all. Can you begin to see? Let me see if I can catch the right light here. Look at all of that prismatic beauty and wonderful color that you have that's underneath our black paint, because again, we have 2 coats of the Dragonfly Glaze on underneath. So I'm going to keep working on this. I want you to really see how beautiful that black is. And as I started the video, if you're just now joining us, Dragonfly Glaze is not a paint. It is a top coat or a sealer. It can be used as a varnish. So you can use it on all different types of surfaces. And you might even ask me, is it outdoor worthy? In other words, can you use it on a project that might decorate your porch over the summer? And the answer is yes. Can you use it on glassware and then use the glassware again? Yes, once it's baked onto the glassware, you can. Dragonfly Glaze is a wonderful finish. It comes in 6 different colorways. Comes in a red, violet, blue, a blue, green, gold. Another one is green, gold, and red, and then gold, red, and violet. Today we're working with the violet, blue, and green. And then there's another one that's called Full Spectrum, which is all of the colors together. So you can create a variety of looks just by using the different colors. I'm going to see if I can do this without getting my fingers in the black. Just by using all of the different colors of the, oh, y'all, look at that. All the different colors of the Dragonfly Glaze. This again is the coloring violet, blue, and green. And as I turn, it's just amazing. I'm seeing it on the monitor here in my studio. I hope it's showing on the cameras to everyone at home. If you turn it some ways, you can see some of those violet hues. You can definitely see the blues. You can see the greens. It's just beautiful, just like Carnival Glass is itself. Carnival Glass, as I said, was in the little bit of a history in the beginning, was something that was really, really popular in from the 1908 to the 1918s, a good 10-year stint it had. And so many people liked it. Many, many people did not like it. And I think it holds the same yet for today. It comes in a variety of colors from an amethyst and blues and greens and marigolds. And it's something that kind of went away after 1918. And during the 50s, there was a huge revival for Carnival Glass. And that's when many, many companies like Fenton and Northwood and Dugan, if you are an art collector or an antique dealer, you might recognize some of those names. They all then started making them. And Carnival Glass was made in huge, large, tall pitchers and tumblers and vases. There were candy compotes and gosh, sugars and creamers. It was made in so many different styles of glassware. And the funny thing is, the original glassware in the early 1900s not often was stamped with an identification on the bottom. Many manufacturers weren't really known to do that at that time. So today, it's sometimes hard to really distinguish whether a piece of glass is valuable from the 1900s or possibly a reproduction from the 1950s. But either way, it is still very, very popular and very well sought after. Let's see if this one's dry enough. I can try another little section here. Okay, this one's dry enough. Let's go ahead and brush on some black on this one. Let's see, this was the section that was dry. Yeah. So on my plate here, remember I divided my plate up in thirds. I'm just going to apply some of the black paint. Again, this is the FolkArt multi-surface. I'm using long, smooth little strokes, kind of brushing that color on to my plate here. And this plate, because of the little trim that's on the rim of the plate, is going to be, I think, quite beautiful when we flip it around. Any questions, Emily?
Oh, my fingers have been very busy. So yes, I've been typing. So some people were asking if all projects have to be baked. And I was telling them, no, it's just for the glass. And they were asking, can you do different base coats like pastels when you are using the Dragonfly Glaze?
Oh, most definitely. Now, I will tell you, you can experiment and try all different kinds of colors. So like as an example, if you, this picture frame here, and you were only using the Dragonfly Glaze as a top coat, which is what this one's done. This is just a very inexpensive, I think, dollar store frame that was painted first with black. And then the same Dragonfly Glaze that we're using today, the violet, blue, green was brushed on top of this. And that is what's giving you this violet and blue and green finish on the black base coated frame. Now, I will tell you, you can experiment and use other colors than black, but the black is going to give you the most prismatic, a darker color, maybe even switch to a dark navy. But think about, you need to have dark to make that bright prismatic color shine. So you can play around with a pastel, but you may not get quite the same prismatic wow in your face as you do with by not doing a dark color underneath. So do play, do experiment, have fun, but I will just share with you that the darker the base color and then use your Dragonfly Glaze on top, the better you're going to be, because you will get more of a prismatic effect. Okay.
Another question was, could you paint on both sides of the glassware? So if it's like a bowl or something and you can see the inside and the outside.
Well, because if this effect is what you're talking about, the Carnival Glass, your last coat is going to be this black. If you did it on the inside and the outside, you're going to end up with a black painted glassware. You will not see the prismatic effect. So if I took this piece, which is decorated on my back side again, and I flipped it around and I did the same process, I put my Dragonfly Glaze on here, and then I did another coat of Dragonfly Glaze, and then I did the black on top, I would end up with a piece that has solid black on both sides. Now, you could do the top part in reverse, and you could put a black background down first, and then do 2 coats of your Dragonfly Glaze on, and you will get this type of an effect on the top surface, but it will not be food safe. So if you're thinking that you might ever use, this is a saucer. So if I had the cup to put on here, or if I was using this as a little candy dish, or even a little coin toss to, you know, when gentlemen come home and they empty their pockets and put their change in there, then I would, you know, I would think I would just rather have the clear glass being able to see through.
I guess the other question is, if you flipped it over and saw the black, could you paint the Dragonfly Glaze on top of the black?
Yes, that's what I had just said that. I'm sorry if that didn't make sense. If I took this piece and I painted this black, and then I put the Dragonfly Glaze on top, 2 coats, I would have something that would look just like this frame here, which had the black background, and then it had the Dragonfly Glaze on top. But you have to also remember that if you have a piece that's pressed glass like this, I've got a pressed design in this glassware. If I were to start by painting that black first, I will lose all of that image of the glass. Does that make sense now? I think
yes,
it's better.
I was at, like, flip the plate over, Chris, turn it upside down. Yeah, if you turn that upside down and you see the black on the camera, painting that with the Dragonfly Glaze.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I'm so sorry. I missed you.
It's okay. It's okay. We got there.
Yeah, you still could do that. You could. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think you probably could. And it would probably even show up more if a piece were pressed glass. Let's go ahead and take this piece here. I have the Dragonfly
You're going
Glaze.
to try it. Oh,
yeah, sure. Why not? Let's answer the question live. Now, it won't show up exactly because remember, we need to put 1 coat on, let that dry, put a 2nd coat on. So I don't know today's class if we have the drying time, but we can definitely try that. And I think then you would see more of that solid through and through, if you will, look of the depression glass called Carnival Glass. I'm sorry, I didn't catch you the first time around, Emily. I apologize.
Oh, it's totally fine. But people are saying that this technique is beautiful.
Well, you know, I will tell you that Carnival Glass is something that people either love or hate. There's many, many collectors of the old vintage Carnival Glass. And then there's many people that think, oh, well, that's just poor man's glass. Like I said, back in the day, some people did think about it being poor man's glass because it was given away at carnivals. And then it was considered not as pretty as what Tiffany's glass was. But can you see that I'm already starting to get some shine here?
It looks so cool. And then now it's like fully encased in that glaze, and you still have the fun glass like effect on the other side.
Right. I'm trying to work it into, this piece really is heavily pressed. I'm trying to work it into all of the little crevices here. So this definitely would require 2 coats because there's a possibility that maybe I missed one of these crevices of the pressed glass.
Now, is there an option for people to just use the glaze and bake that if that's something that aesthetically they prefer without the black underneath?
Yes, and I think I did talk about that earlier, like if you, when I was talking about maybe a wine stem, if you just wanted a clear prismatic effect on glassware, almost like this little plate that we started out with, this only still has one coat on, but you can see it gives you a very prismatic iridescent effect just on the clear glass. And looking through the clear glass, I'm going to see a little bit, but not quite as much because I don't only have one coat on here. But this one coat is dry enough now that I can put a second coat of the Dragonfly Glaze on top of it. Let me just finish this up and we'll do that too. I hope to see lots of faux Carnival Glass out there for everyone taking the class today. This is a great way to repurpose, relove, and just give a new old piece some new life. And I think everyone's going to be out thrift storing through Goodwill and so on to find, or even rooting through your kitchen cabinets to find that unused piece of glass that you're thinking, okay, what can I do with that? If you do experiment with this and have fun, I welcome you to take a photo of your piece and share it on social media. Be sure to use the hashtag Make It With Michaels. I think what's the other one, Lindsay? Make It With Michaels.
And hashtag Michael's classes.
Michael's classes. And then for us, if you'd like to join our Learn to Paint community on Facebook, we have a great community called Let's Paint with Plaid. And if you join that community and share a post of your piece, you can use the hashtag Let's Paint Challenge. We'd love to see everyone's examples of having fun with paint, and we love to see everything you've done. And I know Emily and I would just be thrilled to see each of you painting a piece of faux Carnival glass and sharing it. This piece is the first piece that I started with. This has the second coat of the Dragonfly Glaze, and again, the coloring that I'm using today is the one that is violet, blue, and green. So it kind of flashes back and forth between those three colors, depending upon the angle at which the light hits the surface. So when choosing a piece, if you are thrifting, it's best to find a piece that has quite a nice shape to it, so that I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, excuse me. As we do have some more questions, but please finish.
Okay. Well, I thought I heard you coming in with a question. That's why I stopped. So yeah, so just make sure that when you're selecting a piece of glassware, you have something that has either some pressed design to it, like our little plate here, or you have something that has some shape to it. Even our simple flat plate here, that was one of my designs that I'm sharing with you, was photographed in our pieces here. This has a little dip in the middle here. I don't know if I can catch it on camera. It's not a completely flat plate. There is a little dip to it. This would be great on your husband or better half's dresser. When he comes home, he can throw his keys in here, empty his pockets with his coins and so on, put his wallet on. It's a nice little piece. And in this coloring with, again, the color is violet, blue, and green. It's a great color that would look great for a man's dresser. This plate here too also has a little shape to it, even though it's a smooth plate and not a pressed design like our little sample here. This too has a little wide, like dip down for the rim of the plate. So when you're looking at it in different lights, you can see lavender or violets, red violets, you can see blues, you can see greens. It's just really quite beautiful. And Emily, I'd like to hear all of our questions.
There are a lot of questions, Chris.
Oh, goodness.
So, okay, so people are saying there's so many ideas coming to mind. Somebody said that they inherited some pieces of Carnival glass from their grandmother, but it has mercury in it. So this would be a much safer option if they wanted to, you know, grow their repertoire of glass pieces to put on display. They also said, if you don't put on a black coat, will the glass be blue or just iridescent? So can you maybe go into that a little bit more again?
Sure. I was just picked up this one that this was my plate that was like a test sample. I kind of divided up into thirds. And let me grab my brush. I'll use this as my pointer here. Remember I had, and again, we're working on the underneath side, but I kind of divided it up in thirds. I'm trying to look for my line. Here's my line here. So this was my thirds on the back side. And what I did for, if you're just joining us, I did one coat of the FolkArt Dragonfly Glaze, and I just showed you how you just simply brush it onto the back surface. You completely let that dry. Then I brushed on a second coat. You completely let that dry. So you actually have two coats of the FolkArt Dragonfly Glaze in the color of your choice. And again, the one I'm using is violet, blue, and green. The third step is right here where we used our black paint on the palette here. And that black paint was the FolkArt multi-surface. And I used licorice, but you could also use pure black. So if you didn't do a pure black, if you wanted to do a different color, another dark color is best, a deep burgundy, a navy, a deep hunter green. It will completely change the effect on the front here, but it will still give you a very beautiful prismatic effect because you have used a dark color on the back side. This is just one coat of the black. But if I were to do this, because you can see, let's see if I can point right here, I'm pointing from the underneath side, but there's a little section there that didn't get completely opaque. I would come back and put a second coat of my black on just to make sure that it's an even application of my base color, whatever that color is going to be on the back side. I would do that one more time. And like I said, you can play around. I know we had a question earlier about using pastel colors. Can you use pastels? Yes, you can, but you're not going to receive quite the dramatic effect that you do that you're receiving the black on the bottom.
And then there's been quite a few questions about baking. So
Okay.
some people think you have to bake after each layer. Some people think you have to do it at the end. Can you just confirm for
Yes.
everybody in the chat
Yes. Be
the
glad
baking
to.
process, please?
I'd be glad to. Okay, so this was our little, one of our demonstration pieces here. This started out with clear glass. It's clear glass right now on the outside. I did this kind of, again, I'm talking about doing things in reverse, but I applied the paint and the glaze and everything on the inside. So when this was clear glass, I first started out with my Dragonfly Glaze and I brushed on the inside here, one coat all the way in the bottom and also on the outside edge here, the rim, and I brushed up. I allowed that to completely dry. Then when that was dry, I came back with another application of my Dragonfly Glaze. I put a second coat on, and in the second coat, you can brush in an opposite direction. So if, and the bottom, if I brushed vertically this way, my second coat, I could come back and brush horizontally on the bottom. So this little bowl here has two coats of Dragonfly Glaze on it. Then I came back with my third step, which is using the FolkArt multi-surface black paint. I'm using licorice, and I brushed one application on the inside. Now, typically I would let, and this is dry, I can come back and put a second coat of the black on here. And that's when I would then bake it. So when it's completely applied with all of the Dragonfly Glaze, as well as the FolkArt multi-surface black paint, at that point is when I would bake it to cure that paint and that finish onto the glassware. So the baking instructions were, and I'll repeat them, you're going to set this in a cool oven. So you do not preheat your oven. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the part that does not have paint on it. So in case I put paint on the rim of my bowl, I'm going to set the part that is still just the clear glass, which in this case is the outside of my piece. I'm going to set this either on a cookie sheet or directly on the rack within the oven. I'm then going to set my timer to 350 degrees and set my temperature to 350 degrees, and I'm going to set my timer for 30 minutes. 30 minutes later, I'm gonna, of course, the timer will come off, but I'm also gonna turn off the oven, and do not open the door. So what you want to do is the oven and the glassware itself needs to heat up together, and it needs to cool down together. A suggestion is to do it at night, just before you go to bed. Bake your glass for 30 minutes and then keep that oven door closed. Don't open the oven door until the next morning, because obviously it's going to be cool after that length of time. Then that's when you can take your piece out of the oven. I typically like to let mine set for another 72 hours just to make sure. But then after that, I can then use this candy dish. If it was a wine stem, like I said, with just this prismatic effect like that, I could then begin using my glassware. I always say hand wash or handmade hand wash. It is top shelf dishwasher safe, but the reason why I say I still like to hand wash my hand painted items is because your dishwasher could be brand new. I could have a very old dishwasher. Our heat temperatures are going to be different. Our detergents may be different. The jet powers of the water within the washer itself could be completely different. And why take the chance? So I always say, if it's handmade, hand wash. And we just played around a minute ago applying the Dragonfly Glaze on top of that black background of the base coat. And look, there we go. So we have something that looks like Carnival Glass on the front. And again, we did not paint this side. This is the clear glass. So I could still set a cookie or a piece of cake or something on here, because we did everything from the back side. So we have a Carnival Glass looking piece. This was our experiment that Emily suggested we do while we were on air. So that was a great fun experiment to show that, yes, you can apply the Dragonfly Glaze on top of this black background. Any other questions, Emily?
Yes, we have a couple more questions.
Okay.
The first question is, can this be painted on resin projects?
I think so, but I don't think you want to be able, you will not be able to bake them. Because I don't think we want to bake resin. Is that correct? I'm thinking
no,
not.
no. And I think that the other thing is that people are wondering if we're baking lamps. So I think that the Dragonfly Glaze in general, it can be used without baking, just as a
Yes.
glaze. But for
Yes.
this specific Carnival Glass on glass, you would want to bake the glassware so it is more durable, correct?
That is correct. And I did show a lamp earlier, and I'll bring this over into view. I'll take my lampshade off here because I think we're still overhead. So I can show this lamp here. This lamp piece, I think, was just from Target and was probably like maybe a white to begin with. So what we did on here was we kind of did the reverse. We painted it black, and then we used the Dragonfly Glaze as it's originally intended as a top coat. Remember, Dragonfly Glaze is not a paint. It is a top coat or a finish or a varnish. So that's what we did, and we brushed it on this one. And you can see, because there are both the change of the dimension of the piece, as well as all the little grooves or little divots, the molds itself, this just shows up so beautifully. And it is absolutely wonderful when you use Dragonfly Glaze in this way. So this is not the Carnival Glass technique, but this is on a it was probably a white ceramic lamp. So it was used more as a top coat or a varnish. I hope that answered that question well.
Yes, I think you did.
Any other questions?
Somebody just wanted to see the rock one more time, and after that,
Sure.
I think you answered everything.
Yeah, this kind of looks like a gorgeous rock or a big, beautiful lump of coal. Sometimes lump of coal has an iridescent look to it. And you can see blues and violets and greens. This just has so many different colors on this black old rock. And
If I received that piece of coal for Christmas, I think I'd be a little happier than getting just a plain old black one.
Right. And you think, well, who wants to decorate a rock? But, think about this on a desk as a desk accessory or a paperweight. This is absolutely beautiful. And it's a great way to use a rock because it is now a really pretty piece of art versus just an old stone. Any questions about anything that we've done so far? I did go back.
No, there's just been so many compliments about how beautiful it is. And
yeah,
that
this
texture
was
is so pretty.
This was that clear disc that we actually pounced using a foam pouncer. We pounced the FolkArt Dragonfly Glaze on, and then we also used it to pounce our black on. And I did just now, you can see there's still some milky white areas. I did just brush on a coat of the Dragonfly Glaze on top of the black, just like we did on our pressed glass piece here. This will dry all completely clear. That milky white haze that you're seeing is still wet Dragonfly Glaze. This one that we experimented with, it's pretty dry. I'm touching it. It's pretty dry. So now there is a piece of glassware, pressed glassware, that really does look like the real original Carnival Glass. And if you won
With
this
just
piece,
paint. Yeah.
yeah. And if you won this piece at a carnival, I think you'd be thrilled to go home and take this home with you. Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. This was so fun.
I just saw a question on there. Too bad it's not food safe. Well, your piece, if you do it just as I did here, all of your paints are on the bottom. This still is the clear glass here. This is a food safe piece. So don't be mixed up about that. You can create a piece of Carnival glass. It can be food safe if you do it all on reverse. I hope that makes sense. I don't know who made that comment, but I just saw a comment come up about.
I think it's the bowl, Chris, the bowl that you had done. The inside is no longer food safe. That's why you would put some tissue or something else on the inside.
Right. Or wrapped candies. Wrapped candies would be fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this bowl on the outside now is, and I could still go ahead and put the FolkArt Dragonfly Glaze on the inside and bake it. It won't be, you'll no longer see the black, but it won't be food safe, but you could still do the thing like wrapped candies or put a layer of a small little paper doily inside there. If you're going to put a cupcake in there, make sure your cupcake still has a paper liner to it. I mean, there's ways to work around it, but just look at how beautiful all of that color is. And this all happened right before your eyes, all in 1 hour. Any other questions, Emily?
Would you recommend microwaving the glass with the glaze on it after it's been baked?
No, definitely not. That's an easy question. No microwave. It's not microwave safe, and it's not soaking in a tub safe.
All righty.
Okay. Think about this. So we mentioned earlier that this is outdoor safe and outdoor worthy. If you have any wind chimes that have glass streamers to them, be sure and think about this with your wind chimes, because this can be used outdoors. And just think about how beautiful and prismatic those wind chimes would be too. And remember to use the hashtag Let's Paint Challenge. And I invite you all to join our Let's Paint with Plaid Facebook group if you're not yet already a member. It's a wonderful, warm, caring, sharing community. Andy Jones and myself teach there all the time, excuse me, all the time. And we love to share all kinds of learn to paint tips and techniques. And we welcome you to join us. If there's not any other questions, Emily, I think our time is just about up.
All righty. Well, thank you, everybody. And we really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.